Welcome to the Mayo Clinic Human Optimization Project, where we're creating the blueprint to help you become the best human you can be. I'm your guide and fellow optimizer, Christopher Camp. It's been estimated that the average adult makes over 30,000 decisions per day, which is a mind-blowing number. Now, while many of these may be small or subconscious, the majority of these decisions shape who we are and the impact we have on the world. So given how impactful these decisions are, it's critical that we get as many of them right as possible. And not only do we need to try to make the right decisions, but we need to make them quickly when possible. If we have to make over 30,000 decisions a day, we don't have time to waste. So how do we make the right decision at the right time? Well, that's what we're going to tackle in this session titled The Art of Decision Making: How to Make the Right Call at the Right Time. Our expert guest today is Andrew Danielsen, the Chief Business Officer for Mayo Clinic. In this role, Andy oversees Mayo Clinic's Department of Business Development, the institution's front door for partnering with companies, entrepreneurs, and investors. The work of business development includes technology commercialization, startup formation, strategic collaborations, venture investing, and enabling the core strategic priorities of Mayo Clinic. In addition to this work, Andy also works in multiple startup companies. Accordingly, he mainly just makes decisions for a living. Well, Andy, welcome to the Mayo Clinic Human Optimization Project. We're excited to have you here and honored that you would join us.
Well, thank you, Chris. I'm excited to be here. Great topic and one I think about a lot, so looking forward to the discussion.
Awesome. Well, to keep us organized, we always sort of split this up into three sections. And we have what I call the three big questions. So the three big questions we're going to tackle today. The first one, what are the key elements needed for us to make a good decision? The second big question is going to be, why do so many of us struggle to make effective decisions in a timely way? And the third, what concrete practices can we adopt to improve both decision quality and timing in work, home, and leadership settings? So let's dive into that first one. In this first section, we're going to talk a lot about just kind of what are the key elements for a good decision. So I'd like to hear from you as somebody who's been making a lot of decisions for a long time. Yeah. In your opinion, what do you think are the core components of a high quality decision?
Well, as I mentioned, this is a topic I think about a lot, and that is decision making. I'm a firm believer that our lives are downstream of the decisions we make. Everything about our lives, including our work, our health, our relationships, are downstream of decision-making. So understanding how to make good decisions, I think is top of the pyramid, if you will, on quality of life. So that's number one. Number two, I have spent a lot of time reading and understanding from those who've been good leaders, or I suppose people would recognize as having made good decisions over time, right? They've gotten themselves into leadership positions. They've been good leaders. They have a good quality of life. We can learn a lot from understanding how they answer that question that you just posed. Mm-hmm. So I will be sprinkling some of my favorite quotes that I've come across over time from leaders who make decisions for a living, often with an impact that's even larger than a physician or a business leader. And you ask, so what are the components of making a good decision? I would say for me, in order, is data. It is always important to have as much information as you can about a decision you are about to make. And we'll talk about this as we go forward, but not too much information or waiting for too much information. Right. It is the right amount of data and information. That is always number one. Mm-hmm. But there's depth to that, and we'll get to that. Two is, I would say, an awareness of how emotions do come into play. Whether you believe them to be at play or not, they often are. Sometimes a bias, sometimes our inability to acknowledge that there is emotion even when we think there is not. Mm-hmm. So it's awareness that there are emotions at play. And then the third is a framework. Mm-hmm. Because day-to-day and small decisions, it's helpful to have a habitual framework. And then when big decisions are to be made, when there's anxiety, when there's stress, it is important to be able to fall back on a framework that you remember and say, okay, these are rubrics, these are helpful points that I make sure that I address as I'm making a big decision. They're just reminders to fall back on. So it's data and information, it's awareness that emotions are at play, and it's to have a framework that helps guide you.
Excellent. I always love 3 points. So three main points. It's great, and I know that we're going to come back to each of those. I also want to call out what you said at the beginning. Really, everything we do is downstream to our decisions, and if you think about it, I mean, our life is we're essentially just decision-making machines. It's sort of just what we do all day, every day, and the outcomes of those decisions are really what determine who we are, what we do, the impact we have on those around us, and the impact we have on the world. So I think the importance of this is huge. You know, we said in the intro that oftentimes humans are making over, 30,000 decisions a day. And I think that because of that, it's important that we need to make as many of those decisions as possible. We need to make them correct. We need to make the right decision. But we also have to be timely in doing that as well. We have a lot of decisions to make. And people talk about the concept of being fast and speed, which I think is important. But I also think that can often be a detriment if you aren't also precise or accurate. And I like this term, decision velocity, which velocity has both speed and direction to it. So it talks about being both accurate and fast, both, which I think is interesting. So can we talk a little bit about that concept of decision velocity and what that means to you?
Yeah, and there is so much in what you just said there. 30,000 decisions, and I don't doubt that for a moment. And one of my favorite quotes is, every morning you get up and you get two things. You get a chance and you get a choice. And we get up and we have a chance to live our lives, and we get 30,000 choices that we make. And there's comfort in there, and then there's fear in that, because when you say, hey, we're decision-making machines and the quality of our life is down to our decisions, it can be paralyzing. Well, so now I'm like, boy, I better make the right decision. What if I don't make the right decision? What if I make the wrong decision? And that's no way to live your life. On the other hand, you can't be flippant. You can't say, well, it doesn't matter what choices I make, and, I'll just move to the next, to the next, to the next. So that's why there's no easy answer here. And I do like, again, how you're trying to frame this up for us all, because it is how you have to have that framework that we talked about. A lot of decisions every day. Some should be made with speed. Some should be made more slowly. Some, it's very important to be directionally correct. That's the velocity component. And some, it truly may not matter. And so now we start saying, well, that's fine, Andy, but right. Guide me through the chaos, right? So that's when you get into your framework. That's where we can learn from the wisdom of others. And so I'd like to start with, yes, making decisions quickly can be an advantage or not. Understanding what is and spending time to have velocity, to have direction, most often is important, but sometimes is not. Because we understand that, yes, a decision often is not a one-time thing in isolation. It is a choose your adventure, and you make one decision, and all that means is that now you make another decision. Right. And all that means is now you make another decision. It's just a series of infinite branch points. And when you understand that, you'd say, well, directionality then loses some of its power because it's not even a linear move forward. It can be recursive and loop back in. I can make a decision to go back and start over in the right situation, or I can't go back and recursively loop. And so now let's get into maybe a little bit of framework. I'll hand it back to you, but velocity important, speed important, directionality important for some decisions.
Right.
For other decisions, getting into a mental loop on that is actually a negative.
Right.
And so we can have a framework to help guide us on where is velocity important, where it's not.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So let's talk about that a little bit. And so let's say we have that decision where we think speed is important. And I think it's obvious, making a right decision quickly, the benefits of that are pretty clear to people, I think. What are some of the consequences of taking too long to make a decision? And let's say we are in an instance where making a decision relatively quickly is important, which we know doesn't apply to every decision, but let's say it does. What are the downsides of waiting too long in those scenarios?
Well, the world's not waiting on you to make a decision, right? The world is progressing and does not care about your opinions, feelings, goals, objectives, quality of life. Time is moving forward, and that's the way it is. So this morning, I always wake up around 5:30, and this morning I was, it's Friday and it's 5:30. You know what? My first decision of the day, I'm going to lay here in bed for another 5 minutes. Did I need to make that decision quickly? Yeah, because it was either get up or don't get up. And what would happen if I delayed that decision until noon? Well, you know what? I probably don't have a job, right? Hyperbole, but you get it. Mm-hmm. When is it important to make a quick decision? When there is a need to move at pace with the world. So it's easiest for me to fall back on my job, which is business. Mm-hmm. So if there's a business decision to make, should we make an investment in a company? Should we talk to this company about a partnership? There's a expiration date on that. Mm-hmm. We have to make a decision and we have to move ahead because that investment opportunity won't be around forever and that company will need an answer. So I would say a lot of it is you have to adjust your decision-making to the world. Mm-hmm. And all of us do that, as I say, every day. There's some decisions that can wait a long, long time and then some that need to be made quickly. And that's an application of external forces that help us decide, do I need to make this decision quickly or not? And again, that's when we get into good decision making. Oftentimes we can fall into the classical procrastination where external forces are telling us we need to make a decision, but we don't. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I'll say on this is I am a big proponent on all things being equal. Better to make a quick decision than not. Mm-hmm. There's a few instances where you don't want to do that, but if you can't decide or if you are unsure, make a quick decision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's very spot on. And I love your analogy. The world is not going to wait for you. And the world moves quickly. And whether we like it or not, that is the reality that we live in. Mm-hmm. And I also think information moves quickly as well. Mm-hmm. And so one of the problems too is if we don't make a decision based on the information we have now, that information only has a certain half-life. It's going to expire, and that information decays over time and is no longer accurate. If we wait 6 months or a year, we're looking at new information. You see this all the time. You see you put together a budget for some big plan. You get all the costs and everything together. Then you try to decide to move forward with that, and it takes months or years. Okay, now you decide to go, yes, that budget is no longer accurate. Yeah. Everything has changed, right? Yeah. And so I think information decay is a huge part of that. And then also just the ego depletion that it causes us. I think there's also a downside to just constantly weighing this over in our mind, and we don't have the time, and it wears us out, I think, having these decisions for too long. But as you mentioned, there are times when you do need to slow down and you do need to take time. So how can we determine when it's more appropriate to take that slower long-term approach rather than the quick decision velocity approach?
Yeah. And this now comes back to framework and a little bit of awareness, because what you just said before I answer your question, a lot of times, again, there's more emotion in our decisions than we want to admit. I'm guilty of this. I'm sure we all are. Well, I just need a little more information. Well, no, Andy, you really just are afraid of this decision. Mm-hmm. And you use it as an excuse. As they say, the heart decides and the head rationalizes. So we make a lot of emotional decisions, and then we use our logical brain to defend that emotional decision. So we'll say, I don't want to make this decision. Well, boy, then I guess I just need some more information. I'm rationalizing away a decision I don't want to make because I'm scared, it's awkward, it's difficult. So I'd say the question you ask on when do we want to go slow, I'd say be careful to first engage your awareness framework and say, am I rationalizing to move slow here because this is a difficult, awkward decision I don't want to make?
Boy, that's got to make up a large proportion of the times we go slow. And I don't know the numbers, but I would say that's probably the vast majority of the times.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
90% of the time when I am going slow, it's because, and I don't want to admit it, but it's emotionally I don't want to make this decision. I don't want to deal with it downstream. So but that's what we all do. We rationalize that away with, I need more information. Oh, I'm just going to wait for this. I'm going to wait and see what this happens. And that's not what's at play. So that's, again, why we talk about those three. It's awareness that there's emotion here, and be honest with yourself. Am I trying to slow this down for an emotional reason? And that's okay. Then address it. Then deal with it. Why do I feel this way? Okay, well, let's figure this out. Now, why do you often want to go slow? And there again is the framework. And again, we learn from others. There's nothing new under the sun. It's thousands of years of human civilization. Everything we're dealing with, others have dealt with and thought about. Jeff Bezos, and I'm sure he didn't originate this, he has this concept of one-way doors and two-way doors. And so when you make a decision, is it a one-way door or a two-way door? Meaning, is it a door you go through and there's no handle on the other side and the door's locked and you cannot go back? Or is it those restaurant swinging doors? I go through the door, ooh, I don't like this, and I go right back through. When decisions are two-way doors, meaning we talked about a recursive loop on decision-making, and you say, well, you know what? I choose to go back to the start again. I don't think I made the right decision the first time. I want to make another decision. Those are two-way doors. Then speed is paramount. Make a decision, move, gain knowledge, gain information. Two-way doors means fast. One-way doors, when it is truly a one-way door, that's when you should slow yourself down because a decision is made and it's hard, or you can't go back. Now, not all one-way doors. I mean, that should be your first indication of, I should slow myself a little bit. But I would say that's necessary, not necessarily sufficient. You also tie that to impact. So a two-way door with an impact, meaning a negative or positive impact that's modest, again, just pure speed. A two-way door with a massive impact that could be negative. Now, even there, you should be going somewhat slow. A one-way door with a smaller impact, again, check yourself a bit, but move with some speed, but slower than otherwise. And then where you want to move extremely slow, a one-way door, significant impact. So when we talk about these decisions at where I work with my team, we use this as a rubric. Is this a one-way or two-way door? What's the worst thing that can happen with the decision that you'll make? And we use this as it's just a nice visual because we're visual, emotional beings. And we say, and if that decision results in a smoking crater where the Mayo Clinic building used to be, then don't make that decision, right? And people laugh, but you're like, yeah, but this reminds us that a one-way door with the chance to have a significant negative impact, you go very slow with those decisions.
That's great analogies. I like that. And I've heard the concept of the one-way and two-way door, but I like how you've broken it down that way.
You need more than just that, because if you stop there, you'll again pull into your emotional awareness. You have to combine it with impact.
So I want to use this to transition into our second section where we're going to talk a little bit about why we struggle to make effective decisions. And the first thing I want to pull out in this section is I think that oftentimes people think decision makers are leaders or CEOs, and that this doesn't necessarily apply to everyday people in their everyday regular lives. And that's one of the things I want to get your thought on, because I really think all of these concepts you're discussing are applicable to all of us, really, in essentially any a conscious decision that we're making throughout the day.
Well, as we said, our lives are downstream of our decisions. So what we're talking about here is applicable to all of us every day, all the time. Back to your point on leaders, yes, leaders are over-indexed to decision making, and you and I have spoken of this. Physicians who are leading a patient on a care journey, myself in a leadership role for a other group of humans. It's hard to think of it this way, but it's true. We're paid to take in information and make good decisions more often than not. That's our job. If you want to boil it all the way down to what is a physician and what is a business or a leader, you're paid because on par, you've shown yourself to be able to make good decisions most of the time. And when you realize that, first it's a bit humbling, and then you think, well, I should probably study decision making. If that's ultimately what I do for a living, then I should understand what have other smart people through thousands of years taught themselves about good decision making, which is why I think this is such a tremendous podcast for you to be doing. And then two, as a leader, you recognize that you have to also have grace with those around you, because there are some decisions, of course, they make about their own life and about the work they've been asked to do, but because they're not leaders, they can't make some decisions. They're not empowered by their institution to make some decisions. That's ultimately what leadership is. So sometimes when we have impatience with our staff or with a team member, to remember, well, they're not leaders, so they're not empowered to make all the decisions in all ways that a leader is. And that also helps you then be a better leader, right? When you understand what decisions others are and can make. So yes, leaders by definition make more decisions, more impactful decisions, are trusted to do that. That's what a leader is. Our teams and those who work for us, they make a lot of decisions too, though. And so all of the rubrics and frameworks and everything that we're talking about here today is broadly applicable to literally everyone, whether it's their life or their work. But I do want to make sure that especially, physicians, leaders, as we progress, and all of us through our careers, understand that, as you elevate through your career, the number of decisions, the impact of them, the stress and anxiety of them increases. The last thing I'll say on this, it's hilarious, and I think we've all experienced it. I tell my team it's the American way, right? Like you complain about your boss, and if you're not, I'm like, you should be complaining about me. If you're not going out and having beers with your colleagues and be like, that guy's crazy, I'm like, it's a healthy part of our lives. And then you sit in a chair, and the decision is yours, and you're like, oh. Okay, right? I take back.
No wonder he is the way he is.
80% of what I said about my boss
is,
from 10 years ago, because when you have the luxury of sitting in the stands and saying, well, why did you do this? Why did you decide that? And then you sit in the chair and you're like, this is my decision now. People's careers, if you're a physician, people's lives are at stake. And then that decision making is different and your perspective changes. It's also a unique aspect of as we grow through our careers as leaders.
Well, one of the things I think makes this so difficult is that in order to make a decision, you need information. And as you mentioned, sort of one of your key components, number one, was you need data. You almost never have 100% data. And it's always a question of how long do I need to wait to get more data? Am I going to be able to get the data? So can you tell me, how do you approach the information gathering process in order to give you the confidence you need to move forward and make the decision?
decision making is an art. It's not a science. And those of us in the sciences struggle with that because we've been programmed to control your variables, structure things, data driven. And decision making is very rarely that. And here again, I'll quote Colin Powell, who had to make decisions on life or death through his career as a military person. And he had what he called the 40-70 rule. Again, speed is important in military matters, right? It's important to react and do whatever is needing to be done. And information's important. Where is the enemy, and what do I do about it? But I don't have all day to figure this out. He would say you need to get to at least 40% of the data or information you need to make a good decision. That's how we're, adding data or information to have good decision making. And then he would say you need to then make a decision somewhere between 40 and 70%. And here he's protecting against that emotional awareness of emotions. If you have 70% of the information, then it's time to make a decision. You do not wait for more, because more is not coming, or to your point, the information you've collected at that point is decaying, or the data that you will get beyond 70% is just incrementally not valuable to making a quality decision. So now, art. Well, how do I know when I have 40? And how do I know if I'm over 70? And that's unanswerable, right? Every situation's different. You'll never even really know that, but I think all of us have, you'll have a vibe for, hey, I think I've got 50, 60% of everything I'm going to learn here. Time to make a decision.
That's phenomenal. And I think that number is going to be surprisingly low to
It
a
is
lot of our audience,
yes.
right? I think we often think I want 100% of the information, but I would argue 100% is almost impossible, right?
It never exists.
Right?
Not in a world of variables that are constantly changing. 100% is a myth that, again, now we go back to that second point. That's a myth you tell yourself because you're putting emotion into this, because you're scared, because it's difficult. So you say, well, if I don't have 100% information, I can't do this. That's not true. You'll never have it. Now you should be thinking about, okay, emotionally, what's going on here?
So you're saying to our audience and to me, I'm feeling this one pretty heavy right now, that if we find ourselves saying, I need 100% of information, that should
go
probably,
to point 2.
Yeah, it should immediately trigger us to say, okay, what is the emotional block
what am I afraid
or
of
barrier
here?
that's keeping me from making this decision at this point?
Absolutely.
Because it's probably something other than needing more information.
So that those numbers were shocking to me too, that 40 to 70. Even saying that in your mind, even what I just said, well, I have about 50 to 60% of what the data I think is out there. Time to make a decision. And you're like, whoa, well, Andy, what if you're investing $20 million? I'm like, time to make a decision. What if I have a patient in front of me and deciding between 2 courses? Time to make a decision. It's meant to put yourself in a true framework of what you just said earlier, which is so true. Information is decaying as fast as you're collecting it. The world isn't waiting on you, and there are so many variables at play that more often, unless it's a one-way door with a huge negative impact, and even if it is, 60 to 70% is the best you're going to do. And if that shocks you a little bit, you're like, well, now you're on a journey of understanding decision-making and the need to make sure emotions aren't in play, because 100% information does not exist. And it's something we tell ourselves when our emotions get involved.
And thinking about our own cognitive biases here, my bet is that we probably tend to underestimate the amount of information that we have. And we think that there's a lot more information out there that just maybe doesn't exist.
Could be true too.
And so I wonder if sometimes we think, I only have 70%, but I don't know what this other 30% is that I'm waiting for. It probably doesn't exist, and you probably have most or all the information at this point. So move forward.
You know
make
what?
The decision.
Wise words, and I'll go back to another, because not everything revolves around military, but again, a lot's at stake, and so you'll have your known knowns, you'll have your known unknowns, and then you'll have your unknown unknowns, and that's what you're touching on. You're like, That's why I say the 100% is a myth, because you only know what you know, or you know what you don't know. What you don't know that you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And it exists.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think, well, I'll get to 100%, well, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it exists, which means 100% can't be.
You don't know how to get to 100%. It's not possible.
You can't, because there's things you don't know that you don't know, and that exists in life, and therefore 100% is not reachable.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of our last question in this section before we move on to some solutions. I want to talk about the concept of decision fatigue. And some of our audience may say, well, my head's spinning for all this. This is pretty complicated. But I do think oftentimes, making these decisions can wear us out. Looking for more information can wear us out. So can you kind of explain what the concept of decision fatigue is and how that impacts us?
Very real. I feel it every day, especially in this job. I'll come home at night. I think we all do this with a spouse or a partner or what have you. What do you want for dinner? It's like, I cannot make one more decision here. It's like, truly whatever you want. If I have to make one more decision, I'll explode. It happens a lot. Or, what do you want to do this weekend? I don't. I can't think of it. I can't. That's decision fatigue. It's real. We're humans. We're not robots. So that's, again, part of your 3 things, right? Awareness that of emotions, including fatigue. So when we're making decisions, well, I need more information. Well, is it really just that you're tired? Is it tired? So emotional decision-making fatigue is real. So then you say, what do you do about it? First, this is why they say, like, you have to unplug. You have to have something in your life where you don't make decisions, where there's nothing wrong with a guilty pleasure, a mindless TV show where you're not thinking, or you're out in nature doing nothing, or playing a video game or something that just unplugs your brain. We sometimes type A folks will be like, well, I'm not doing anything productive. No, you're doing the most important thing, which is recharging your ability to make good decisions. So one, you have to recharge. You have to stop or give yourself permission to put yourself in a place where you're recharging. And then 2, this is where it's so valuable. That's why this is the ethos of Mayo. You need a team you trust. You need other people. We carry each other here at Mayo, trusted folks to help you, to carry the load, to help make decisions. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's how I'm seeing this. What do you think, Chris? Man, I'm tired. I know I have anxiety about this. Here's what I'm thinking, Chris. What do you think? It's good to have folks in your life who understand now, again, whether you're talking personal life will be different people from business life, people who both deeply understand who you are and your life if you're making life decisions, and then people who really understand your business and what you do for a living, and then people who don't. So you need people in your orbit who, professional and personal, who can understand everything that got you to the point of the decision and who know nothing about how you got to that decision. So if you have a reasonable orbit of those folks to share in the decision making and give yourself permission to recharge, that's how you defend against decision fatigue, which is very real.
Great advice. So let's give some more advice here. We'll transition to our 3rd section where we're going to talk about some strategies to help us improve our decision quality and timing at work, home, and in leadership settings. So first, this question I think might be obvious, but I want to ask it anyway. Can a person actually improve their decision-making ability?
Not 100%. Yes, they can. Absolutely. You get better at anything in life, and making good decisions, you can absolutely. And not only can you get better, you can get much better. We talked about it, right? Just even understanding information, emotional awareness, and frameworks. Each of those are a start of a journey. Underneath those are other things to learn. And as you master those, your ability to make decisions improves dramatically. I often think of that's part of growing older. That's part of maturing as an adult. Kids make horrible decisions. And as they get older, they make less horrible decisions, hopefully. You start in a job and no one trusts you to make any decision, and you build a career, and then people allow you to make the most important decisions. And it's our job, both in our lives and our careers along the way, to learn how to make better decisions than we did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much information out there. Again, nothing you're encountering, nothing you think is new or novel to your life. It's not. It's been billions of humans for thousands of years. They've all had to deal with everything you're dealing with. And so look back to them for wisdom. It's there. You just have to go find it.
Good. I like how you've outlined this with the 3 sort of main points of it. Number 1 being getting the data, or stop getting the data. Second, awareness of your emotions, and third, frameworks. So we've kind of talked through each of those. We've given some tips, but I'd like to kind of run through and maybe give you a chance to summarize each of those 3 categories to talk a little bit about what people should actually be doing. So let's talk about the first step, understanding data. What's kind of your take home, and what do people need to actually do or not do in that category?
Again, each of these, there's so much there, and it's case by case, right? Again, deciding what time to get out of bed in the morning versus how to allocate a $20 million investment, right? So it's hard to put a single system onto every decision. But I would say with data, make sure you're diverse in your data gathering. Always give credence to critics and contrarian views. So important. We all have egos. We all like to have our biases confirmed. And I've found to making good decisions is part of making good decisions is pretend you're your own worst critic. And say, if I wanted to prove Andy wrong, what would I do? Or I hope Andy fails, and I bet he's not seeing this or that. It's hard to do, but to try to, once you're about to make a decision, not when to get out of bed, but something more, take your mind, put it all the way around, and say, how would I disprove this? Or how would I know this is the wrong decision? Or what would my critics say as I see, right, that's wrong? And just have an open mind on that. So I would say gathering data, we all know, right? You'll know with the decision you make where to get that data and all these things. So I'd say the answer on that one would be make sure you look at the coin on the other side. Challenge yourself. Say, if I were to disprove this, if I were to take the opposing view, truly, what would it look like? What data would I need then?
Great. And I also would say, remember that 40-70 rule that you gave, which is fantastic. And I think for a lot of people that get hung up on that, they say, "Oh, I don't have 40% yet." I would
go
ask
to point
yourself,
number 2.
Yeah, go
it's
to the next
just point number 2.
and ask yourself, okay, what information do I still need to make this decision? And is that can I get that or not? If not, make the decision. If you can,
but I would say even right there, you'd say, if you say, well, I don't have 40% yet, I'd say, well, first skip to point number 2, emotional awareness. Is that true, or is there something more here?
Okay.
It could be true that you don't have 40% yet. It could be. But when I say that to myself, I always just quickly go to point number 2 and say, is there something more here? Am I not wanting to do this for a reason? And I might say, no, I just truly think I don't quite have what I need. Because it's a one-way door and it has a moderate impact. And I'll okay, well, let's go get some more information. So you toggle back and forth between all of these 3 items. Like you're constantly moving back and forth between them. It's not 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 1. Right? Yeah. So rapidly, sometimes it's just like bang, 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 back and forth.
So on the second point, I like how you've interconnected all of them. In that second point, some of the emotional barriers that we may not be aware of. Can you list? We've kind of gone through a bunch of them, but can you list off what a few of those are? So you mentioned being uncomfortable or just not wanting to make the decision. What are some other common things that may be holding people back?
Well, the big ones, almost all the time, is anxiety. I'm afraid. In our career, what if I make the wrong decision? Will I lose my job? If I make the wrong decision, I might lose a lot of money. If I make the wrong decision, this patient might lose their life or have a worse quality of life. That's a big deal. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to make the wrong decision. That's the biggest one. Then there's the awkward. This person's not performing well. Should I go talk to them? Well, that might lead to having to let them go, and that does not feel good. So pain avoidance, right, is a big one. And then the third is ego. I want to be right. So I don't want this data or information, right? Because we're all that way. Right? I want to be right. I want my idea to be right. So sometimes gathering more information for a decision might say, well, you weren't right. That wasn't the right decision. Or, right. And so it's, to me, it's always anxiety, pain avoidance, ego are the big ones. I know those are all negative, but when I reflect, that's a big reason folks don't make decisions.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's going to be a negative emotion that's holding us back, whereas the positive
almost
ones are probably
always
propel us forward.
Yeah.
Okay, and then quickly too, kind of as we start to wrap up, the third element there is framework. So some common frameworks that maybe we've hit a bunch of, but could you summarize?
Yeah. So my favorites, I obviously I love the one-way door, two-way door, and what Jeff Bezos said at Amazon. It's in one of his shareholder letters. He's like, big companies, when they fail, is they'll go slow on two-way door decisions. And now that's back to your previous point. Why? Well, because people are afraid to make the wrong decision because it might negatively impact their career, so they just won't make a decision. And so we keep that in mind. I love the 40-70. It's one that I do. It's impact. I love that one. There's another good thinker on this, Naval Ravikant. He spends a lot of time on quality of life and things like that. And his one is, if you want to make the wrong decision, ask everybody. And I think about that one a lot at Mayo Clinic because our strength is that we're a consensus-driven, team-driven organization. And our weakness is we're committee-driven and, right, ask everybody. And there's a real danger, and this gets back to too much information. And he'll say, if you want to make the wrong decision, ask everybody. And I think we all know what that means, right? So you're not going to make everybody happy. So, right, if you ask everybody and try to make them happy, you're going to make the wrong decision. So I would say those are my favorites. The one is more Mayo-driven because it is our strength to be consensus and team, but be careful. The 40-70 is just one I live by. One way, two way I live by. And then make sure you understand impact. I'd say the last one I live by too is to make sure there's comfort here. You're not really making just one decision, or very, very rarely. It's like you said at the start. You're making a decision to just move to the next decision. Infinite branch points from a decision, okay, I did. Now there's just another decision and another decision. And remember that these are often recursive. I made a decision to a decision. Don't like this. I'm going back to the start. Again, unless it's a one-way door, and then, right, and then we factor that in.
This has been a terrific discussion. You've given me a lot to think about here. I'm taking a lot of notes, so I'm learning a lot as we go. I'd like to take a quick minute here just to kind of summarize the biggest take-home points for me. One, at the very beginning, you outlined really our life is just a constant stream of decisions. We just keep making one after the other. That's really kind of what defines us as humans. The three big components of making a high-quality decision that you outlined, number one being data, number two, awareness of your emotions, and three, having a proper framework. I think those three components really outlined the entire discussion, and everything we talked about kind of fits in with those. We talked about the concept of decision velocity, which speed is important, but it's mostly important if it's going in the right direction. So you need speed and direction. There are benefits to moving fast. Sometimes you have to because the world won't wait. Information does decay over time, and it just going slow sometimes wears us out cognitively. And you gave some tips on when to go fast and when to go slow, and lean more towards making a decision quickly if you have a two-way door that you can walk back through again, if it's something that's going to have a smaller impact, or you have enough information. You're in that 40-70 sweet spot. Make your decision and go. You might want to go a little bit slower if it's a one-way door, which you can't reverse. It has a really large impact. Or you don't have any information yet. You haven't made it to that 40%. So I think keeping those separate. In reality, you're always going to have a mix of those variables, but I think that was really helpful. And in terms of how to get better, I like how you split it up in the data, awareness of emotion and framework. So I think you've given us a great structure here. You've answered all these questions for us quite nicely over the last 40 minutes or so, but I want to give you one last chance to hit the big three questions as we go here. So rapid fire answer to these. So the first one, what are the key elements needed for us to make a good decision?
Yeah, it's the data, emotional awareness, and a good framework for decision making.
Excellent. Second big question, why do so many of us struggle to make effective decisions in a timely way?
Because our emotions get involved. We are anxious, afraid, or want to be proven right.
And the third, what concrete practices can we adopt to improve both decision quality and timing in work, home, and leadership settings?
So this one, I'll say, I know what works for me. I've spent time thinking about this, and my job and my life. That doesn't mean it works for everyone who's listening. So what I would tell folks is, that we're in the age of AI and the internet, and all knowledge is out there for you. So take time at you as a person, your career, your life, how you got here, and everything else, and build your own framework for decision making. We've talked about ones that work for me, but there's a lot of ways up the mountain, and what a framework that works for me doesn't work for everyone. So I would encourage folks to understand what you've done here. Your life is downstream of decision making, so it's important. Spend some time reading and learning about decision making and shape it to yourself.
Great discussion. We always like to end with a challenge or sort of a call to action for our audience. So we're trying to help people turn passive learning into active learning and help them get started in the process. So for this one, after talking with you, one of the things that I think would be good is for the audience to take one decision that you're struggling with, that you're having a hard time making, and ask yourself what emotional barrier is holding you back. And notice I said, what emotional barrier, not is an emotional barrier holding you back. The assumption is yes, there is something holding you back. So I want you to think about that and ask which emotional barrier it is. You outlined a lot of them for us in the third section: anxiety, fear, pain avoidance, or ego. That's probably going to take care of most of them. So on the decision you're struggling with, ask yourself which one of those is at play, and then figure out how you can reverse that to move past it. All right, optimizers, there you have it. Andy Danielsen just did a tremendous job walking us through this session, the art of decision making, how to make the right call at the right time. This was a phenomenal discussion with a lot of great tips, tricks, and high value content. So Andy, thank you so much for walking us through this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Remember to live intentionally, consistently, better. Keep striving to be the best human you can be and never stop optimizing. Thanks for listening to the Mayo Clinic Human Optimization Project. If you like this episode, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find us. Know someone who might benefit? Share the episode with them to join us in our mission to help as many people as possible become the best humans they can be. Have feedback or a topic idea? Email us at optimize@mayo.edu. And be sure to look for us on Instagram, X, and YouTube.
This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be relied upon for medical, professional, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional for any questions. The appearance of any guest does not imply an endorsement of them, their employer, or any entity they represent. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Mayo Clinic. Reference to any product, service, or entity is for informational purposes only and does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Mayo Clinic.